As I pull my fucking earring out. Sorry guys, malfunction already.
Malfunction. This is the first time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh shit, I have no nail.
Cheers to season 2.
Mm-hmm.
It has been
6 months?
6 months, guys.
Officially 6 months.
Yeah, just over. Mm-hmm.
And we're starting this new thing, clearly, with video. So,
Video.
So we're like HD, all up in your business now.
4K.
4K HD.
4K.
Whoa. We're really high tech. We tried really hard. You'll see like
A
little
little bit
clips
of, behind the scenes trying to set this up.
how this was created. But yeah, please be nice because we tried really hard and this is our very, very first video recording.
And it's our first recording in person.
Together. Actually, that's pretty crazy because wait, how long was our first season? Was it just a year?
Yeah.
That we were doing it?
Yeah, we ended our last episode on our 1-year anniversary.
Right.
So
That's wild. A whole year of recording a podcast and not being in the same room.
I know.
So
I know people had so many questions about what?
How
You
do
don't
you
live in the same city? How do you do this?
No.
I actually think it's easier to not be in the same room. Because we just had a lot of struggles audio-wise.
Yeah, audio-wise it's
We were
harder.
just like, oh my God, how do we get our mics not to pick up each other's voices?
Yeah.
So being
I
in separate
think
places, it makes it easier.
That's easier. And I think now that we're doing this live and we're recording, I feel almost weird that we're talking like this and we're talking to each other.
Do I look at you?
Yeah.
Do I look at the screen?
And it feels almost robotic because we're so far that normally if you're having a conversation, you're sitting right next to each other.
Yeah, I know.
So that is really weird. So excuse us if
We look awkward.
we are really awkward right now.
We don't know how to sit.
We didn't know how to sit. We didn't plan our look, which
no.
now I can see that people care about that when they're recording these video podcasts.
It's another component that we have to plan with the episodes is how are we going to make ourselves look now?
Yeah, because you really didn't see anything
No,
before.
and there'd be times we'd be like, okay, it's 11 o'clock at night. Our hair is up in a messy bun. We're in our pajamas. We don't care because it's just audio.
Which is fine, but I guess that also speaks to our name.
True.
Naked Tongues. I guess it's just like naked eyes now. Naked eyes. You get to see what we look like in real life, non-scripted, non-planned.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice.
A little bit of the awkwardness and the...
Yeah. Like, I don't even know how much double chin my camera's showing now. Because we didn't plan this.
Don't look like this.
We didn't plan any of it. We're recording
That's true.
Video on laptops and an iPhone.
Yeah.
I have 2 broken nails on this hand and I totally forgot. Hair is bed hair, basically.
Yeah.
And we're here in a hotel.
And tooth hair. I just took off a tooth because we were outside.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No lighting. This is all natural lighting.
Yes.
And we're trying to figure it out on the way. But that's pretty much our setup at this point. But it was very necessary for us to record an episode while we were in the same place.
It was a must.
Yeah. So that's really why we're doing this. It's for us.
Yeah.
Not for you.
Yeah. And the other 2 times that we were in the same place, we were just far too busy to even consider sitting down and doing this.
That would have been really hard.
Yeah.
And considering how much this already took.
I know.
Trying to plan that with how, hectic everything was. Because we did
2 weddings, basically.
2 weddings.
Mm-hmm.
2 weddings, and that's when we were in the same space at the same time, but obviously busy. And
things were just moving so fast. Our schedules didn't align.
We were doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And we only really saw each other during the wedding events.
Yeah.
The one wedding, we only saw each other the night before.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that was about it. So there was no way that was going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here we are.
We made it happen.
We made it happen. We're in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Snow finally hit. It kind of feels like Christmas, but also not really.
The Christmas music helps, but it still kind of feels weird.
But we're going to a Christmas market later,
so
that maybe will put us in the spirit. You might see some video or I have already seen some clips or videos in the intro of that. But it's 5 days away from Christmas Day today, recording this.
Oh, yes.
Which is bizarre.
We haven't even decided when we're going to upload this yet. But shit, I feel like I need sunscreen
here. Sunscreen and sunglasses.
Yeah. The sun is reflecting off this other tall building.
You're right in it right now. I'm on the other side. But yeah, what's happened in the last 6 months? So 2 weddings.
Mm-hmm. Some travel.
Yeah, a bit of travel. Wait, did you travel before me?
I did. I traveled in April when I first started doing travel nursing again, I guess. And that was different. Yeah. Traveling in the summer was different. And then traveling now is different.
It's different again. Yeah.
Because of the mandatory vaccine requirement that we have now for travel. Because check-in's even longer. You have to upload your QR card now to check in to get your boarding pass.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you can't upload the proper image or something that's acceptable to them, you actually have to go to the desk to get your boarding passes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I would say expect longer wait times.
Yeah.
Especially if you're checking luggage.
Yeah. I'm shit out of luck because I haven't even downloaded my QR code.
You should do that, especially if you plan to travel anytime soon.
Yeah, January 4th in Ontario, it's going to be required. I don't know. I guess that's maybe all of Canada too?
So I thought November 30th was all of Canada.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. I haven't traveled since, September.
Yeah, September.
So I wouldn't know. But I definitely need to get a QR code. I did hear that when you get your booster, you automatically get a brand new QR code. But I don't know if that's everywhere. But here in Ontario, you do.
Oh, I got my booster. I don't have a new QR code.
Weird. So maybe it's just Ontario, because I had a client who got a booster and she's like, yeah, it actually uploads everything for you. It's a brand new QR code. It works with our app. It has all of your information, so we don't have to show our ID along with the QR code anymore. It's all there.
No way.
Yeah. So that's the crazy part about all of this vaccination passports and stuff like that. No, there's no one universal Canadian passport. I feel like every province is doing something completely different.
Well, there is that Pan-Canada one that you are required to have for international travel.
Oh, I wonder if
that's the federal one. I wonder if that's the one that is now putting is it putting your photo? What is it pulling from to have?
Know. She just said everything's on there and she doesn't need to show her driver's license.
Damn. Well, that that's could be nice.
Yeah.
I just don't know how they do it yet.
I would rather. Also, it's like in Ontario, we've always still been allowed to use the receipt. Mm-hmm. When a lot of provinces, I noticed, are straight on a QR code or a card. Yeah. So there was a lot of what is the word? A lot of
resistance, maybe?
Like faking receipts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So now they're really getting on it for January 4th, making it mandatory. Like the receipts are not going to be allowed.
Yeah, it's probably better.
Yeah. But I guess that's good to know about travel, because I did not expect that. Even Canada, because when I went to BC in August, it was pretty relaxed. Mm-hmm. Went to the airport. They did take our temperature, but not every single person. Yeah. Going through security, exact same thing. Nothing changed. Mm-hmm. You get on a WestJet flight, they give you like one piece of wipe.
I know. They don't even clean it themselves ananymore. They're like, here's your Excel wipe. Here's one wipe. Wipe down your own area.
So it was kind of odd. So it's interesting. Like, I haven't traveled since, so I don't know what it's like now.
Yeah, it's more hectic now, I would say, because I traveled right before the implementation too. That's when I went to Banff. Right. And still no temperature checks. The only time I got a temperature check was back in April. And then I asked Will about it because he works at the airport. And I'm like, how does this vaccine thing work? And initially, before the November 30th implementation date, it was kind of random spot checks if you have your vaccinations or not. But then, as of the 30th of November.
It's everybody?
Yeah.
So it takes longer. Yeah. So that's interesting to see at the Toronto airport, because when I went to BC, I arrived early because it tells you to arrive early, and there was nobody there. So I can't even imagine what it's going to be like now.
Yeah. So before, I would still say, go at your regular time if whatever works for you. But now the lines are long. Even I got, when I got back to Winnipeg, I think my flight I arrived just before 7 p.m. and the security line was so long.
So then we're gonna have to bring you to the airport here in Toronto pretty early because it's before the holidays, so everybody's flying out.
Yeah, exactly. And I gotta check luggage now. So, but that's fine. The nice thing about that too is I have those lounge vouchers.
Oh,
yeah,
so
because you can travel for so long. So I had the companion voucher that I couldn't use, and then I exchanged them for lounge vouchers. So even if I am there early, I can go in the lounge and eat and do whatever.
That's true. To chill.
Yeah.
That sucks. Well, that's what I'm interested to see. Well, because we're hoping to go on a trip not in Canada in the new year. Right.
Actually, we can ask Cherry.
Yeah.
How things go this holiday season because she's going on her honeymoon.
To Mexico.
Yeah.
Ooh. I did hear, though, with my clients, they went to Mexico. I'm trying to remember where in Mexico, but they went to Mexico and it was pretty relaxed. This was before all of the recent stuff that they've changed. This was in the beginning of November. Their friend was not vaccinated, but just needed to do like the rapid test results, and everything was super relaxed. They said they got to the resort, didn't have to do anything. There was already a rapid testing center at the resort. They just had to do it before they left.
I feel like going to another country
is easy.
Yeah. I think it's the process of getting back home.
Yeah.
And they can't deny you entry because you're a citizen.
Yeah.
But they can definitely make you jump through some hoops
if
difficult. They want to. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we'll see. It's not going to stop us, though.
No, I don't think so. And see, that's why it's interesting talking about traveling during the pandemic, because there's a lot of people that are like, absolutely not. Not getting on an airplane, not doing this. But the way I see it now, because we've been here for 2+ years, is we're all wearing a mask. You're all trying to do the best you can to stay apart.
Yep.
But it's the same as going into a mall, going into a grocery store,
sitting in a restaurant.
Yeah, restaurant, movie theater.
Yeah. And if the airlines are advertising correctly, at least for WestJet, they say that they use HEPA filters.
Right.
Which are the same filters we use in hospital.
Right.
So, I mean, if it's good enough for a hospital with actual COVID patients,
then it's good enough.
Why would it not be good enough for an airplane?
That's true. That is true.
I mean, again, I don't know. I'm not like super scientific on it, but
but with like basic, and that's the crazy part about now is basic common sense doesn't feel basic anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sure everybody can feel the same way, and I guess that's why there's a lot of trust issues with the government and everything that's going on, because what you thought would happen isn't happening. And what makes sense all of a sudden doesn't fucking make sense.
Even with the new lockdowns with Omicron, I have my feelings about that too, and I'm not going to discuss them here, but I have my own feelings about another lockdown when
like a full-blown lockdown.
A pretty decent lockdown when people have vaccinated already.
Yeah.
When people have done what the government has asked them to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see why a lot of the people that are anti-vax are like, see? Yeah. And it's like, I get it. Yeah, okay, I guess. I don't know. That's like a whole other conversation where you're just like, I don't even know where to begin anymore with it. Because at this point, I'm honestly just trying to live my life.
I know.
Do what I can and be as safe as you can be at this point.
We're 2 years in at this point. And even some of the news, what are they called? Whatever, the broadcasting, like media, basically, right? They were saying we're not sure how people are going to take this new lockdown.
Yeah.
After having going through this for 2 years.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because I was even watching the behavior with my cousin's group chat, because generally our family has a huge New Year's Eve party. You've been to one of ours. And this year they were going to have it at my brother's barbershop, clear it out, have like an actual setup and space and everything for all of us. And there's like easily 40 of us that are in our family. And just seeing the change in, because we've been here for so long, and then this lockdown happened in Winnipeg, seeing how quickly they adjusted to the fact that, oh, it's another lockdown, okay. Whereas if you backtrack to like 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago and there was a lockdown, they were pissed and just couldn't understand it, and it didn't make any sense. There was so much resistance, and now it's like a whole different mindset of, okay, we have to, you know, do this, but let's plan, like, so my family's going to plan another New Year's Eve party at the end of January, hoping that the restrictions lift a little bit. It's
almost like we've been conditioned.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is, right? Being conditioned to adjust to things that we don't have a choice in, or... And then you also wonder, and maybe this is just like completely off topic, you wonder how many people are adjusting and how many people are just resisting and not giving a fuck and still doing what they want to do.
I think there's a lot, because you would hear about all the... in the news, they'd go to these house parties, right?
Yeah, and here in Ontario, or Toronto, they were having shipping container parties.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I heard about it. Like a few, and these are younger kids. I'm sure they come from money.
Of course.
But there was a few that I heard about. It was like shipping containers. So like you wouldn't really know that anything was happening unless you're really close and you hear the music. But they were having full on shipping container parties.
I guess you do what you gotta do.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever. Anyways, we sidetracked from traveling during the pandemic.
Right.
But yeah, I don't see anything wrong with traveling at this point if the government is still allowing it. If you want us to listen to you, then aren't we listening by traveling because you're still leaving it open?
Yeah.
Unless you closed it, then we'd be like, okay, we can't travel.
Rules because you haven't prohibited it.
Yeah. So that's why it's interesting when they're like, don't do any non-essential travel, but we're going to keep everything open. We're not going to question you if it's non-essential. Exactly. We're not going to require you to prove that it's an essential travel. So it's like, it is the fear-mongering, and it's really fucking with people's morals, I think. Like, I think a lot of people are conflicted now.
Yeah.
Of where they stand on everything at this point, which is like kind of fucked up to confuse people enough to submission. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But then you also have airlines like WestJet who bite back and say, right? There was an article about WestJet saying, we've done everything.
Right.
You know, there's no scientific evidence to say that traveling by following these restrictions is putting anyone else at harm.
Yeah.
And it's true. They're like, you're killing the tourism and the airline business. Mm-hmm. It's been 2 years. At what point do we stop?
Yeah. And when there's no support for the businesses, I guess, that essentially you are telling people not to indulge in, it really shows that you really don't care. Like, it's a huge you can tell that there's a lot of favoritism on what matters most.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyways.
But that's enough about COVID.
Yeah. It sucks that that's always like a part of a conversation because we're still in it.
We're still in the middle of it. I don't see it ending anytime soon.
No.
Especially with these new variants coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And especially because the vaccine isn't widely available worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Or easily available.
Right. And that's where we're seeing the mutation and variants is not where we are here. It's in other places that people are traveling to and coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll just hop over to the next thing we were going to talk about is how we felt about the last season.
Right.
We were talking about this earlier, and I mentioned how obviously in the beginning we were very shy, and you almost had this idea that there was a perfect version of a podcast. You're kind of like following that blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Even the way that we were trying to plan out how we spoke.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know.
And then you almost get stuck in a panic, like, oh, well, you can't just be like, let's on to the next topic.
Yeah.
You had to find a transition, which is cool, but also is not natural. But I think as we went on, our flow of conversation became very easy.
Yes.
And
we weren't structuring it so much anymore, right? Yeah. We had our bullets. We knew what we were going to talk about, and we just let it flow, which was more natural than it being so scripted.
That's true. Because we did... Remember how I think you mentioned somebody was like, oh, how do you guys keep the flow of conversation? And sorry, disclaimer, for anybody that listens to a podcast, everybody edits their podcasts.
Yes.
They are lying if they say that it's completely live. That is such bullshit. So... the reason why I brought that up is I think we were so fixated on how people would respond to our podcast that we didn't allow ourselves to be completely unfiltered. So last season we did pretty well. Towards the end, I think we just were like, fuck it, let's just talk how we talk and just leave it at that
and have fun with it.
Yeah. And like veer off naturally, like how we do. We just start talking about something else, which is totally fine, because before I think we were restricting ourselves, like, oh, stop yourself from talking about that and move on to the next thing. So, but I am very proud of us for the last season, because that was a lot of episodes to
33,
put out.
34,
yeah,
something
that's
like
crazy.
We were quite ambitious to start off with.
No, but that was nuts. Like 33 episodes in one season. Most people plan out like what, 10 to 20 within a season.
Yeah.
And really dive into like research on a topic or this and that.
Which we were trying to do at the beginning.
Yeah.
And pump out it so frequently.
Yeah.
And so I mean, at the time it was okay because it was in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah. So we had all this time on our hands. And I think our struggle was once we started getting back to normal life.
Right. Yeah.
We realized we didn't have as much time anymore.
No. And then you also start to realize everything that happens behind the scenes on podcasts, right? Right? How most podcasters will binge record.
Yes.
And then put them out. Yeah. Whereas we were literally recording every 2 weeks
every week.
Yeah. So then you start to pick up on these other things where the reality sets in and you're like, oh, that's not how they do it.
Yeah.
It's all very scripted. It's all very like planned out. So I think last season we did pretty well, I would say.
Considering it was our first go. I'm hoping this season will be better now that we kind of have our flow. Yeah. I think we're going to dive into a lot more debatable, sensitive topics.
Yeah. And I think for me, I can speak for myself as a person coming out of the pandemic, I'm a little bit different. Yeah. Whereas during the pandemic, I guess because so many things were so unknown, you didn't know how you would be received. So you're like, let me just pretend I'm this type of person. And then out of the pandemic, you're like, fuck it. That was way too much work to care about what people thought my opinion was or how my opinion was received. And now, like I was telling you earlier, I'm really trying to be as unfiltered as possible in topics, and maybe I'll get it wrong or it'll be received wrong by somebody, but it is what it is. That's the whole point of listening to a podcast, is hearing a different perspective.
And I hope it opens up a dialogue too. You know, if we have our own opinions, but we also wouldn't mind hearing yours. There might be views and opinions that we don't necessarily understand right now because we haven't seen it that way. We haven't experienced it that way. Right? So it doesn't mean that our minds can't change or our eyes can't be open to different views.
And I'll bring this up. I don't know if they still listen to our podcast, but do you remember the conversation we had with guest podcasters via Instagram? Yeah. I wish we had that conversation like this. Yeah. In a podcast. So as a topic, what the question was. It was about relationships. And I think what we were getting at was like the possessiveness. Or I think our understanding of it was that the perspective was coming from a very possessive perspective. Yeah. I gotta pull that up. But I think I want to bring that up in one of the episodes.
It was the comment about I can't date a girl who's been with more than 5 guys, right?
Right. Okay. And then we were trying to understand why.
Yeah. What is it about that? Like, if you can be with X amount of girls, yes, but you can't see yourself marrying a girl who's been with so many guys. Yes. And then what is it about that makes you feel so, I'm going to blatantly say it, insecure?
Yes. But that was also in the recording we did. But the episode or the conversation off camera, whatever, that was in the Instagram. Was about the crushing thing. Right. Your girl crushing or like not being attracted, but like, yeah, like commenting or saying something about somebody who isn't their significant other. Yeah, and I spoke on, like, in my perspective, like, I'm married, been with my husband for 15 years. We check out people all the time together. And it's interesting to hear somebody feel so offended if their partner did that. And I wish we had it on conversation, like a conversation on a podcast, because I think it would open a lot of dialogue around possessiveness and what you believe somebody is allowed to think and not allowed to think, and what your judgment is if they do think something otherwise. Because that was a really interesting conversation. And yes, we did not let down on our thoughts, because for people that maybe are just joining our podcast, me and Sandy come from two very different like relationship perspectives.
Yeah, we do.
But still have an understanding of how to treat people in general, not even just significant others, but just as a person. So that's why it's really interesting when that topic came up, because for somebody who's been married and in a long-term relationship, and then somebody who at the time was single, to be on the same understanding shows you that it had nothing to do with the relationships. It's just how to treat people in general.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was really interesting, and I'm sure I'll probably pull it up and like put it into a topic and talk about it.
Yeah, we can do one on that for sure.
Because that was pretty good. I wish it was. And see, the
one thing I did like about that episode that we did when we were featured on their podcast was how open and different the dialogue was. Right. That's what made it more interesting. Yeah. Because it was interesting to hear, and even though I didn't necessarily agree with some of their perspectives on it, it was fun to rewatch, honestly. And it was kind of fun to be in the moment talking about those things and having real conversations about it.
And seeing how you react to people that have a different opinion.
Perspective, yeah.
Because I know for me, I almost was just like, I was just sitting there smiling, because I'm just like, I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I don't need to prove that my opinion means something. Yeah. And then I was just like, that's cool if that's what you think. That's fine. So it was interesting to be in, because I was just like, It was interesting, too, to see one of their reactions when they were trying to come back with an argument, and then he stopped and was like, I know what you mean. Right? And it's like, yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I think I'm hoping, because the last season we kind of played around with having guests on. Yeah. I would love to keep doing that. Yeah, that is really one of our goals for this season, is to get more guests, get more guests on, opinions. And I think it would be cool to also bring in guests that don't have podcasts or don't have platforms to speak on, but they have a very interesting, maybe not a opinion that I totally wouldn't mind having somebody on who has a completely opposite opinion than me, just to see what it's like, but hoping that that person that comes on is open to the fact that we have a different opinion, and that this isn't a debate. It's just to air out opinions and have like almost a full worldview, rather than... It's almost educational, right? Like, let me provide you with my rationale to help you understand, and then provide me with yours so that I can understand. We don't always have to agree. No. But at least if I can understand your point of view. And see like where the root comes from. Because generally, most people just want to be understood. Right. And I think people get really angry or in debates because they feel misunderstood. Yeah, that's true too. But if it's like, I'm literally hearing you right now, you're being recorded, I could re-listen to this. Yes. So I completely understand where you're coming from. I just don't agree. And it's that easy. So yeah, definitely finding people, if you're listening to this and you maybe have listened to a previous podcast we had and maybe have a different perspective on that episode, it'd be really cool to reintroduce that episode again and have somebody come on that was like, I don't know, maybe wants to dissect our episode. Yeah. I'm open to that. Yeah. I'd be so into that too. But I think, considering how we ran our season last year, I think it went pretty well. And at some point we just stopped paying attention to if people were listening to it or if people were engaging with us on Instagram, because it became therapy. I mentioned this before. It became therapy talking about things out loud, and then also knowing that you're going to expose what you just said to a larger platform of people. Right. And then also just not caring if somebody heard that story about you, right? So that was really cool. And it definitely worked on my vulnerable side that I was trying to tackle more. So therapy, vulnerability, because now it's like everyone can hear this and they can go back and re-listen to some of the things that I've brought up. And that, like, the vulnerability episode was pretty early on in our podcast, when you were talking about that, how you're like vulnerable in a lot of aspects of your life except for like emotionally vulnerable with people. And I think that's changed a lot in the past year, for sure.
Yeah.
And then to bring it onto a podcast and talk about it bit by bit is like a whole different ballgame. And I would say so for me too. I never really talked about a lot of things until on the podcast, and I was like, fuck it. I'll just talk about it. Like, what does it really matter? Who really knows me knows these stories already.
That's true.
So if it helps for another person to hear it, like, oh, that person's talking about that, cool. Like, I've had quite a few friends talk to me about like, oh my God, I didn't know your family was going through all of that with like your dad's drug addiction and stuff like that. And nobody would, because I never talked about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So then talking about it opened up a conversation, and I've had clients who listen to it too, and they're like, oh my God, like that's such a like a twist, because they're like, the perspective that they know of me, they would have never thought that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really cool to break down, I guess, stereotypes.
Yeah. For
people to think like that reality, or the reality they've created for you as a person, is not true. Almost.
Yeah, because I think there's a side of us that we show to our clients or our patients or our coworkers.
Yeah.
And there's a side of us that we show to our intimate partners, our families, right? So when we come forward with things like this that we would only share maybe necessarily with
one person.
Really.
Yeah.
Or a handful of people.
Yeah.
It's a different face.
It is. But it's kind of nice, because then you don't feel like you're hiding anymore.
I know.
Right?
It's freeing.
It is. Yeah. Because you could be like, this person might know my story. But whatever. It's out there. Yeah. It's not like I'm hiding it anymore.
It doesn't change who you are.
No.
As a person.
No. And I think it becomes a bit more understanding. Like, people kind of get it a bit more, because we've created this society where people only can create what they believe, who they believe you are, and run with that. And they use that in how they talk to you, how they treat you, what they expect you to have in your life and what they don't expect you to have in your life. So it is cool to have on our podcast like a full version of ourselves a bit more, because then there's nothing really you can expect of me if you listen to the podcast. That's just who I am. So I'm very, very grateful for the last season, for sure.
Me too.
And it is really wild, like how organic it came about to do a podcast, because for some people that know us within our group of friends, I don't think we would have ever you wouldn't normally think we would come together on a podcast together and have these conversations, because how do you put it, like we just weren't connected that way. So I would have never thought, but I remember hearing you twice say we should do a podcast, and I was like, fuck it, we should do a podcast. Like, let's do a podcast.
Yeah. And it was a good decision. I know we did it in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was very much needed at that time.
Yeah,
I think for both of us.
Yeah.
But it's also grown into something that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy. Like, would you then think if people just forced each other to be in a setting where you had to have a conversation, like the pressure's on in a podcast to have a conversation. Otherwise, like, what was the point? Right. Why are you even talking to each other on video or in audio and putting it out there? So if people were forced to have conversations, what kind of connections would come out of that?
I know.
Right? 'Cause
that's also true.
For the most part, you're just like on your phone, not really talking to anybody.
I know, that's the thing.
Or you talk about what you saw on Instagram or on Pinterest or TikTok, whatever, and then conversation's over. Like, that's it.
I'm going to send you a meme.
And that's about it.
I'm going to like it or laugh at it, and that's it.
But anyways, that's how I felt about the last season. I was very happy with it.
Me too.
How it turned out.
And I'm very excited for this upcoming season.
Same. Just even the fact of I will make a pledge on this first episode to be as unfiltered as possible. So you guys will probably hear me swear a lot. A lot. And sound a little sassy about things, because I think at this point there's a lot that I just don't even want to entertain. Yeah. So it'll be really interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. And you know what? It gives us an excuse to keep in touch. Right? Because even I found that after we finished season 1, mind you, everything was just starting to open up. We were both super busy.
Yeah.
Right? But I found that we didn't have as much time to connect with one another. And this gives us an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy our conversations. Even the ones that we have prior to recording.
Yeah.
Just catching up on life, seeing how the other person's doing.
Yeah. I think it takes work. We were talking about that. We're like, any relationships take work. So for you to think that just convenience is what builds a relationship, like, it's not. It shouldn't have to be just that easy. I think conversation is easy, for sure. But planning, time to set aside to talk.
Especially with different time zones. Like, we're going to be 3 hours apart. Yeah. It makes it much more difficult to plan.
Oh, yeah. I guess we didn't even talk about, like, what's really gone on in 6 months.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
How are we so busy? So, yeah, we talked about traveling. Where do we want to start? 6 months. Past 6 months.
Well, our last episode was the beginning of June.
So, before summer. So, I traveled to BC. It was great. It was really nice being there. Hadn't been there since we left when we were 21.
Yeah. Which still amazes me that it had been that long.
It was really cool, though, walking around a place that you lived in your early 20s. Things were still kind of in the same place from where I was working on Robson Street. Like, it was pretty cool. And then birthdays in July.
Yep.
And then I bought my first business. So I took on a business venture from an existing business owner. The business has been around for 12 years prior to me. So I'm like the 4th owner owning this business. Which technically, if you look at it as a whole, isn't ideal to do during a pandemic. But you know what? Fuck it. Opportunities come.
Exactly.
So I was just like, let's go for it.
You had to take it.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's hope it succeeds and survives. Because that's mainly, now that I'm in it, realizing that as a business owner, you're just trying to survive your first year. And that Instagram creates such a facade of like success. But I think a lot of people are faking it in the first year and not talking about. And I would love to, you know, as the months go on, bring up an episode on all the things that you don't think about. Because I feel like a lot of these entrepreneurs on Instagram, sure, you're showing all the great things that are happening, but you're not talking about the shit you don't think about. The
real stuff.
Yeah, and the things that might happen, not to scare people, but just to be real about it.
Unless you have money to throw away to fail, you can't afford to fail.
Yes,
right?
And that is one of the biggest things I started to realize when basically remodeling this business was seeing that the previous owners all came from money. They all had money. Yes, I have money, hard-earned money. Not that anybody is like, not that I'm saying that them as a business owner, fuck it. Them succeeding was mainly because of money.
Yes.
That they had money to fall back on.
Yeah.
So if they were to talk to you about their business, they would talk about it in such an optimistic perspective because they didn't have to think about what could happen if this doesn't pan out. Right. Oh, it's fine. I'll just throw like a couple thousand at this, whatever. But coming from a different perspective, where everything you earned is like dwindling away bit by bit, and you're like, holy shit, I did not think about that. And so you start to have to remodel the business where it works for you instead. Yeah. Which is...
And realize there's aspects that you can change where you're not just throwing away money.
Yes. You got to put in a little bit of like elbow grease and do shit yourself for the first year. And I get that now. And I love my clients who have talked to me about it. They're like, you're doing a great job. Like, just keep doing it. And like, your first year is going to be shit. Like, just expect that from the get-go. So the fact that you're still surviving, like, don't worry about it. COVID is crazy. Like, if you can get through this pandemic,
you'll be able to get through
it's up from here. Yeah. So that's been just what I took that on I signed officially in October.
Yeah, but we were talking about it
for a while.
You were stressed about it before that, I remember.
Because I was just like, can I do this? Is this something that I can do? But you don't know. It's brand new. So there's nothing for me to compare it to. So I'm just like, well, we're just going to have to do it and see how it works out and hope to God it works out. And the crazy thing is the support system that's come out of it is so wild to me that like seeing my family like step up and like be there to support, because they know how much I wanted something like this. It wasn't, I didn't just become or get into the industry like last year.
Yeah, exactly.
And decided to do it. It's been a long time that I've been in the industry, even though I'm young.
We moved to BC even.
Yeah.
That was kind of...
That's the start of it. Like thinking that, oh, this is going to be an actual thing that I go into, that I put time into. So it's really cool seeing when you take a risk and people realize the risk you're taking, how much your truest support system comes out of that. Because they're like, holy shit. Like, she's literally about to dive into the deep end. We gotta be there just in case, you know, something goes off, because you start to realize, like, people will be there, of course, when you're successful.
Of course.
Everything's going great. Yeah. And, you know, you're making a shit ton of money. The business is going well. But who's going to be there from the beginning to support you? And those are the things that I'm learning just within the first month, which is wild. So, yeah. Thank you. Because you're one of those people. So that's been a huge learning experience just in the first month. Has been wild. But that was the biggest thing that happened in the past 6 months, that I've kind of been busy with just every day figuring out what the heck I'm doing.
Which again, I know I've said this to you before on multiple occasions, but I just want to say it again about how proud I am of you and what you've accomplished so far. Because it's a huge risk. Yeah. It's a huge leap, really. And I'm proud that you took it and didn't get cold feet and be like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this, and actually back out, you know?
That's true. But I think that's what it is, right? When you take a risk and you just go for it, there's no, you can think about it. I've thought about it so many times, but it was a commitment that I took, and there really is no way for me to get out of it.
And I think you would have, even if things go sideways, I think you would have regretted it more by not taking this opportunity.
I think that's true. Yeah. And we'll definitely talk about this more in like a different episode, but the shit that's just like come my way in the first month.
There's times where I'm like, oh my God, what just happened?
First month, I could easily, and I've thought about this. I've been like, oh, fuck it. Let me just like claim bankruptcy and call this a fucking day and like get the fuck out of here. Like, what am I doing? Yeah. But then I've been finding that outside of getting through those things, something interesting keeps happening after that. And it's wild. And I think for people that don't believe that things happen for a reason, you can't deny the good things that have happened outside of all these like fucked up scenarios that have happened. So it's like, okay, I know this is so shit, but I'm gonna keep believing that something good's gonna come out of this. So I'll just keep going and it'll be fine. But no, that's been like the biggest thing that's happened in the last 6 months. Yeah. What about you?
Well.
She's getting nervous. I already know. I know what's been happening, so I'm
of course Eliza has been in on everything that's been happening. She's actually known long before many people. But the biggest thing that's happened for me since the end of season 1 is that I met a guy.
Yeah. And it wasn't even met. Like, you kind of...
Okay, so I had met him prior, but it was... I'm actually in a relationship now. I have a boyfriend, which is still so strange for me to say.
Because it's weird. Even when you told me about it, you're like, you're not trying to put a label on it or anything. Yeah. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, and then I introduced him to Kevin. Yeah. And she's like, Kevin, Sandy has a boyfriend.
Because when you told me, I was like, I knew it. Yeah. I knew you were going to tell me.
She already knew it was coming because I'd already kind of, hinted it out to her. But it's weird for me to say, but I am happy. I'm super happy. So it kind of just organically grew into something. It was nothing that we planned initially.
He wasn't on Tinder.
It was just someone that I had met through travel, which is what I expected, kind of. Like,
that's right.
If I was going to meet anybody, it was going to be someone that I met through traveling. And we have a lot in common in terms of like interests and our outlooks on life and perspectives and stuff, but still have enough that is different, that keeps it interesting. And Yeah. I mean, I only really told like family and close friends.
Yeah. So this is you telling the world.
This is me telling the world. Holy shit.
And mind you, we did record an episode previous to this.
Yeah, we did.
Which we were not satisfied with, to be honest.
No.
Because I think we were forcing that one.
Yeah, we were just trying to hit a timeline at that point. So we recorded, we said a few things. At that point, I didn't feel ready.
Yeah.
To say anything.
Of course, yeah.
For various reasons.
Which is also good that you didn't push yourself to say something until you were ready.
Yeah.
To say it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I don't want people to think that I was trying to hide them, because everyone knew that mattered to me, and that was what was most important to me, right? Is telling people that I cared about, and then having a positive reaction to it. You know, that's what I needed for them to, you included, to be like, yeah, I'm happy for you. Yeah. Right? I'm glad that this has worked out, and
I knew it was happening.
She did.
Because when you pointed a few stories out before, I'm like, oh, she's totally gonna fall for this guy. She's saying she's not going to, but she's totally going to. Yeah. How could you not? Oh my God. But no, it's so good. And that's why, like, thinking about previous episodes, like last season, we definitely need to revisit a bunch of other things now that you're in a relationship.
Yeah, we do.
Not that it changes you as a person, but perspectives are probably slightly different.
Slightly different. Yes, I can agree. And I just think, me and Liza were talking about this earlier, is I came from a spot where I was happy with my life. And so he was the same. And so now us coming together as a couple makes this so easy.
Yeah, like two happy people being happy together.
It's so effortless, right? And I know Cherry said this to me. She's just like, you guys seem so natural together. And I'm like, thank you. Yeah. Because it feels natural. It feels effortless. Yeah. You know, I don't really have to try. Yeah.
You're just being you.
I'm being me. He's being him. And it works. And we're happy.
Yeah. That's generally where you want to
go.
It takes a while. Well, and that's why I enjoy our dynamic. Because I've been in a relationship for so long. And we've talked about our relationship too. And things change. And then hearing about where you are in life is so nice to hear, because maybe it is a year thing, or like how, like, we're in our 30s. Yeah. And maybe expectations and perspectives are so different now, because we're like, fuck it. We've been on this earth for 30 something years. Yeah. I just want to be happy, and being happy on your own first always helps.
Oh, yes.
And then once that happens, it almost is natural for the other person then to be happy.
Yeah, because it kind of just comes, because when I met him, I was like, I'm not looking for a relationship, and neither was he. Yeah. Right? And so initially we were just like, oh, cool, nice to meet you. Right? And then again, it just kind of happened organically. Yeah. Neither of us were wanting anything. Neither of us were expecting anything. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Yeah. Is they're looking. They are desperate, for lack of a better word. And that comes off. Like, you can smell it on someone, right? Yeah. When they're that desperate. So
yeah, I could see that. And almost like if you're so desperately looking, you're almost trying to forge a relationship, like, and it's always already creating or setting expectations right off the bat for you to understand, oh, this is a relationship now, because they have to do X, Y, and Z for me to understand this is a relationship. And if they don't, then what are we really doing?
And then you kind of force something that may not actually work because you feel the need to be in a relationship. Yeah. And I think that's a whole other issue in itself.
Yeah. So that's what we definitely need to talk about, that as a topic. Not only because we're in two different places, but not two different places. That's not even the right. We were just in two different situations. Yeah. I think at this time where you are and you both are happy and you guys are together, that's like where me and Kevin are. We're there. Like, we've been together for a really long time. So people change, and there's definitely like hardships that happen. And then you start to realize, like, oh, wait, I should just be happy on my own and not put that expectation on somebody, even if they are my husband. Like, that's not what it should be.
Because no matter what, even if you're in a relationship or you're not, you should never expect that other person to be responsible for your happiness. Exactly. Because no one is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where we connect in terms of relationships, because now I'm fully in that perspective where I'm like, just do your thing, be happy, and the other person will be busy doing their thing and being happy. So you just be happy together. So it just makes it so much easier. Yeah. And so, yeah, we definitely need to talk about
it's because you're not putting that onus on someone else to make you happy. Yes. Right? Because then there's that resentment, like, oh, you're not doing this, so now I'm not happy. And it's blame when you should really be looking inward. Yeah, and taking accountability for your life. Taking accountability for your unhappiness.
Yeah, taking accountability for your unhappiness, exactly. And I think just to backtrack, like, taking that risk with the business made me take accountability. Like, you chose to do this.
Yeah, that's true.
So you better do everything you can to make sure it works, and it doesn't fall on anybody else. It's just you. So, yeah, be happy before you get in a relationship. Yeah. Or if you are in, like, my situation, been in a relationship for a long time, you better start becoming aware on whether or not you are happy
outside of that person.
Outside of that person, and realizing that like, when you look at your life, you shouldn't just be like, this is it. There's so much more to life to just, like, keep experiencing. After you get married, it doesn't end there. No. Relationships don't end there. We were talking about this before. Your sex life doesn't end there. Yep. Like, your bucket lists don't end there. I think they change drastically. Your interests don't change there when you get at that age. Like, things change. You change as a person and as a couple. So, yeah, I mean, just try to build healthy relationships in general.
Because it's great.
As you look at the camera, it's great.
It's great. It really is. Like, it's been a while, you know, and it's been a lot of resistance from my part too. And even if you look back and listen to the episodes we did last year, my resistance to a relationship, and it's just, I think it's also because I knew I needed to be in a certain place in my life to be able to accept love from someone else too. For sure. Right? And now is just, it's the right time.
I think also, just to beat around the bush, but also talk about this. There was one point you did have a relationship in a place that did not leave you in a good place. Right. Yet you were trying to find a relationship in that place. And then the moment you took yourself out of something that was, let's be honest, toxic, then you kind of became more open to a real relationship rather than, like, forcing what could have been a relationship, or like potential, which is what we were talking about in the last season 2. Is like, don't date potential. And so what if you wait a long time?
That doesn't even matter. I think a lot of us, the fear of being alone, which is a episode that we talked about before, or a topic in an episode that we talked about, but I also think what I realized in this is, as far as you try to run away from your roots, you know, you always come back to it because it's your morals, it's your values. You need someone in your life that matches that. Yeah. Because then otherwise it doesn't work. I found myself frustrated when I tried to date people that didn't have the same morals as me and the same values. And as much as I tried to understand their point of view, some things just don't mesh well.
Yeah, there's some things you can disagree on. Yeah. But I think values and morals, it's like built in, it's part of you.
It's part of you. You can't. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I had this list of things that I wanted, you know, a checklist. Yeah. You know, this is what I want a partner to be like. Yeah. And you do that because you're trying to manifest something. Yeah. Right? And this is what I want. These are my wants, which is fine. My ideals, right? These are my non-negotiables. These are what I'm willing to compromise on. But you soon realize that if there's certain things that are non-negotiables that just don't work if they don't meet those. Yeah. So
it's nice to have lists and, like, a blueprint of what you're thinking, but then the non-negotiables are definitely a list that you don't change.
You can't.
And also reflecting on why those are your non-negotiables.
Yeah, I think is and important. Sometimes you don't know that they're your non-negotiables until you meet people or do things that conflict with that, and you realize, like, no. This has to be there.
And I could definitely agree with that. That I'm sure if people listen to our prior, or maybe they won't even notice. But yeah, non-negotiables for me was truthfully having somebody that came from like a cultural background.
Yeah.
I've said it in previous episodes and I'll say it again. I don't think I would ever date a white guy. And that's just me being honest.
Yeah.
And it's not that white people aren't cultured. There are. Some. But that's why I'm saying, like, seeing people dating, seeing relationships, they're very hard to come by. So I always needed, and not all Filipinos are cultured either. Some of them assimilate into white culture. But anyways, we're sidetracking. But yeah, not realizing what your non-negotiables are, and then realizing you're like, holy shit, yeah, that is a non-negotiable for me. Mm-hmm. But you never think about that. You just, you don't think about what your patterns are.
Yeah, and I think one of the good things about dating later in life is you know what you want, for one. Yeah. And then because you date and you're like, okay, I want to try this out. Mm-hmm. I want to date a white guy, or I want to date a Hispanic guy, or whatever, right? And then you get to see, oh, this actually isn't what I want. Yeah. Right? Because if you don't expose yourself to it, and then it's just this idea, this fantasy that, oh, what could be, until you put yourself in that situation, you're like, hey, fuck this.
Like, this is not it.
This is not gonna work.
Yeah, this is not it.
And then it makes you appreciate other things more.
Yeah.
So.
And it's even not, like, and say sidetracking, but it's not even searching for intimate relationships. It's like thinking about what your friend circle is like. Mm-hmm. And as long as you have like a melting pot of different types of people, you kind of use that as your worldview. Mm-hmm. Not that my white friends I'm not cool with, I am. There's just certain things that you don't want to explain. Yeah. Or have the need to feel like you need to explain. Because they come from your culture or belief.
Similar upbringing.
Yeah, similar beliefs. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, that's like a full-on sidetrack, but I just had to point that out. And yes, I'm married to a Filipino, so just in case for anybody that's listening that doesn't know. Yeah. I'm married to a Filipino.
Okay. And I'm half white, so it's okay. I get it.
See, and these are the things, like, you might start to notice in our podcast, like, I don't think in conversations we've ever taken offense to anything that the other has said. Like, you've talked about marriage, and I don't take offense to it because I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah, and that's, I need to stress that so much, right? We can have different opinions and we can have different wants in life, but as long as we are happy with our choices and our decisions, nothing that Eliza says is gonna offend me. Yeah. Because I'm confident in my choice.
And that's your life.
And when I was single and wanted to be single, I didn't give a shit. No. That's what I wanted. Nothing. How many of my friends got married in that time period, right? And I was genuinely happy for them. Just because I don't believe in having a wedding doesn't mean that I was going to be any less happy for the friends that wanted one.
Yeah. And I guess it also comes down to what our idea is of happiness. Right? Yeah. And I think that's what people like to press on, is like the idea of happiness is getting married, having kids and all that stuff.
But whose idea is that?
Yeah. So I think that's why, to me, in terms of just like the marriage thing in general, I also was one of those people that were like, I'm never going to get married. I just don't believe in it. And then it happened. And I'm like, I still am that person that's like, hasn't changed my last name. Yeah. And we've been together for like 3 years, or married for 3 years. But yeah, you can be in different places in life and still respect each other as people, because as long as you're doing whatever's happy, like makes you happy, then it is what it is. Anyways, just wanted to point that out. But
and it's great on this side, guys. Yeah, it's great.
On which side?
On the side of happiness.
Oh, I'm like, which side? What are you talking about? I don't know. On the side of happiness. Yes, it's true.
Once you find it and it's genuine, it's not something that you're trying to fake, even subconsciously.
True.
Holy crap.
And I think we may start to notice a pattern in season 2 of talking about like the sides of happiness that we're in, because we were even talking about like terms of situations of like drama.
Oh yeah.
It's just not that interesting anymore.
Yeah, it's more of like, oh, again.
Yeah, or like, really?
Yeah.
Okay. On to the next thing.
Yeah. So can we talk about something like exciting now?
Yeah, something nice.
I want to celebrate wins, you know? I want to...
Yeah.
Those are things I want to do now. I want to hear about opening a new business or a new relationship or, oh my God, I just got this job.
Yeah. And you can honor the fails, but they don't. All fails, I wouldn't even consider them fails, but any obstacle that causes tension does not have to be dramatic.
You're right.
Right? Causes tension. Let's figure it out and let's move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be drama. And I think at some point in time, you should understand that. Generally.
You should.
Just generally speaking.
You should.
Hopefully. Things don't have to be that dramatic. But you'll probably hear that in some of our episodes, I'm sure.
Yes.
Things that we learn as you get older. Anyways, that's pretty much all we wanted to talk about. And then some. Yeah. As usual.
We always veer off topic, but that's okay.
Yeah, but let's hope Sandy can edit this video. Otherwise, you might just get some audio. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if I can make it work.
But I'm getting hungry now. Are you getting hungry?
Yep, and I'm ready to go to that Christmas market.
Okay.
So... Thanks for joining us again. I know. Bye. Bye.
Okay.
All right. One last cheers.
All right. I'm almost done anyways.
Cheers.
Can you say bye again? Okay. I'm just going to continue saying bye the same way. Bye.